Hello. So very quick tutorial on how you can create a script that will automate adding several modifiers and then changing some settings and have it show up here in your search menu so that you can hotkey it. So if, for instance, if you're like me, you always set up some modifiers, but you always want to turn on certain settings, then this is going to be really useful. So let's just remove all of this and go about creating our script. So let's make sure our workspace is ready. Perfect. And I apologize for my clicky mouse and my keyboard and anything else you might hear. I swear no illegal activities are going on in the background. So we're going to start with a template. Don't start from scratch. And I'm going to use operator simple. So this just prints out all of our objects in our scene. We're not really interested in that because we're going to do something else entirely. So I'm going to delete this function. And I'm going to delete the call to that function in execute. This is where we're going to put all of our code. Right now, because I removed that, our operator still registers, but it doesn't really do anything. So I can run it and then search for it using this label right here. So spacebar or F3, simple object operator. There it is. So we can change this label to be anything we want. I'm going to call it amazing modifiers and run it so it re-registers. Amazing mods, and there it is. So this is all the code you need to get an operator to show up in the search menu. However, like I said before, it's not doing anything yet. Execute is empty, it runs and it immediately says I'm finished. So to add some modifiers to this object, we first need a reference to that object, and we get that with context.object. So that returns the active object only, not necessarily what's selected, but the active. And just so we don't have to type this out multiple times, I'm just going to store that reference in OB. So this is a lot easier to type. OB is going to be equals to this. Cool. So to add a modifiers to OB, just type .modifiers.new, open, close parentheses. So now we need to specify a name for our new modifier, and then what type of modifier we want to add. So name can be anything, really. Name equals my mirror, and the type, if you're unsure about the type, go to edit preferences, enable Python tooltips and interface, and then you'll be able to just go to your modifiers and hover over anything, and see at the bottom you'll get a Python tooltip that says the type is mirror in all caps. Cool. Mirror, let's just do that. So let's test it out and see what happens. So I'll click run, and I made a mistake. Where did I make that mistake? Oh, I typed in modifiers. I'm like, how could I possibly make a mistake with that code? Okay, perfect. Now just run. Hey, there we go. It's working. So notice how even though I added a modifier, it doesn't really update here sometimes in the UI. So sometimes you need to like click on the 3D viewport and then it will update the UI. I don't usually code through this text editor, but I think that's how you need to do it. Okay, so we added our modifier, but how do we change these values? So again, let's just hover over it and see what it is. Or alternatively, you can just click on it and then some code will appear here. And we can just copy paste that over here and see what it's doing. So this is a reference to this modifier, but we don't really need that because the same way we stored a reference to our object, we can store a reference to our modifier like this. Mod equals this new modifier. So now instead of having to type all of this, we can just replace this with mod. And of course, let's place it in the right location, which is up here. So that's all we have to do to change different attributes. And let's say I want to enable Z as well, which is use access to. And clipping, why not? Use clip. Mod.use clip equals true. Perfect. And again, test it out. Hey, so it enabled all of those settings and turned on clipping. Perfect. It updated by itself that time. I don't know how this works. I don't know anything. Anyway, let's add some more modifiers. So we can just recycle this variable now since we already set everything we wanted. We don't need a reference to this mirror anymore. So let's just reuse it. And now mod is going to be bevel. and I know that this is bevel in all caps. Most of the time it's the same name you see here, but in all caps. But for some names, like subdivision surface, it's actually different. As you can see in the tooltip, it says subsurf. So just be mindful of that. So here's our bevel modifier. The mod.segments equals 3 segments. I already know this is the command I need to change our bevel segments. And let's do the same, but for a subsurf. So as I just demonstrated, what we need to type here is subsurf. Again, if you're ever in doubt, just hover over something and see what the Python tooltip says. And I also know that this is mod.levels equals 4, and that's going to give us 4 subd levels in the viewport. So let's test it out, see if it works. So if we mistyped again, it works. So it adds all of that and changes all of those settings for us. You can see our 4 levels, our 3 segments. So that's pretty cool. But how do we hotkey this operator? So it's very simple. Just search for it, amazing mods, right click. So I already tested out shortcuts because I wasn't sure what would work. So it should look like this, assign shortcut, and I know that C is going to work. So I'll press C. Oh wait, assign C, there we go. And now I can select my object, press C, and it's going to assign all of those modifiers. So I can do that with anything really. Let's try cylinder, C, and it is mirroring, but it's mirroring on top of itself because I didn't really move it. Let's just try that a little bit differently. So let's move it over here and over here. There we go. See? Why is it so slow though? I guess it's just too many subdivision levels. Oh, my bevel, I forgot to set my bevel to the limit method to angle. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You know how to do this now. There is one thing I want to note though. This script here is not permanent. If you close Blender, the C shortcut that we set up is no longer going to work. So we need to store this script somewhere Blender will always be able to find it. So I'm just going to tell you what that directory is. So I'm going to paste this directory in the description because it's actually really, really long. Yeah, I don't think you can read that, but if you can, this is it. So let's just copy it. Again, check the description, and we're going to save this script using save as, paste that directory, and then operator simple is fine. Just save it. And now I can just close Blender, forget about all of this, not even going to save, restart Blender, and check this out. Amazing modifiers still exists, even though we don't have it in our script editor anymore. And we can still use our hotkey. Hey, so that's how we do that.